Hi everybody, Michelle McClunan, astrologer and life coach, and I'm bringing you an update on the forthcoming new moon. It's a solar eclipse on the 25th of October, and it's the start of the eclipse season. It's going to be followed in 2 weeks' time by a lunar eclipse, which will be a total lunar eclipse on the 8th of November. So what we're doing is we're entering into eclipse season and into sort of a bridge between the two eclipses. So I'm going to just show you and help you see what an eclipse is, and then we'll go into the specifics of this eclipse because it's on the axis of Taurus and Scorpio. So what does that mean? Basically, an eclipse is when the sun and the moon align with the nodes of the moon, which are known as the nodes of destiny. The south node is our ancestral or our past life karmic node, and the north node is the node of destiny, the future, where we're moving towards. So whenever we have an eclipse, they're aligned with those nodes. And those eclipse season has an 18 to 19 year cycle. So they always hark back to 18 years ago, which I'm also going to explain to you, because this one's definitely aligned with 2004. So what an eclipse season means is that it's a turning point. It sort of seems to be fated, eclipses, particularly if they are triggering something in your chart, if they are aligned with one of the main planets or one of the main points in your chart. You would feel it more intensely, and you would see the patterns that go back 18 years ago, 18 years before that, if you're old enough. So they're turning points. You can feel them up to a month before and a month after, and they're often clearing. They're often a feeling of endings and beginnings. So what is a solar eclipse? A solar eclipse, being the new moon, is where the moon partially obscures or blocks the light from the sun. So if you look at what the sun is and the moon is in astrology, the sun it shines out. It's a masculine, penetrative, active light in the sky. Warms everything up. It lights our way. The moon is much more feminine, much more reactive, much more responsive. She reflects the light back from the sun. And at a solar eclipse, she partially blocks the light from the sun. So what that means, if you look at it symbolically, is that it's the feminine partially vanquishing the masculine. So it's a time where the feminine sort of rises up, if you like. The feminine in us, the feminine in the world, it rises up. It wants to be noticed. It wants to be seen. It wants to be acknowledged. Now, that's always the case with a solar eclipse. But with this solar eclipse being in Scorpio, it's more so, because Scorpio is a fixed water sign, which is very feminine. So what we have is the sun, the moon, plus the planet Venus, which is the feminine planet. So you've got two feminine planets and the sun all squished together in the sign of Scorpio at the same degree. So that's a lot of energy. It's a lot of intense energy. Bearing in mind that when we look at a chart, we look at planetary energy, there are 5 what we would call personal planets. Even though the sun and the moon aren't necessarily planets, we're going to refer to them as planets. And that is the sun, the moon, Mercury, Mars, Venus. That's the 5 of them. And at this new moon, solar eclipse, 3 of them are sitting right together in what we call a very tight stellium, like a group. And whenever you have that in astrology, there's an intensity, there's a focus on that energy. So that's what we're going to unpack. So new moon's always a time to plant new seeds. And this one, as I said earlier on, this one definitely links back to, if you think back to October, November 2004, it can be quite interesting to see what was going on there. And I've just done that exercise for myself, and it's quite eye-opening. So what can happen is that this is a continuation of a similar theme. It's a different part of the cycle. It can be a letting go of whatever you've carried forward from that cycle, consolidating, letting go, releasing, purging, so that you can actually bring something new, usher in the new. So when you look at Scorpio, which is where these three are sitting in a little group, Scorpio is a water sign. It's deeply feminine. It's deeply mysterious. It's a sign that is very misunderstood. So a lot of people don't trust Scorpio, or they're scared of Scorpio. And very often that's because Scorpio really it's the catalyst of the zodiac. So we all have a little bit of Scorpio energy in us, every single one of us. It's ruled by the planet Pluto. I've spoken about Pluto quite a lot over the last few years. Pluto is the planet that relates to transformation. It's the catalyst for our soul's evolution. So it holds no prisoners. If your soul has come here to evolve, Pluto is going to actually assist that process of evolution. And when you come up with a solar eclipse on that axis, you're going to have more energy pointing you in the direction of your destiny. It's almost that Scorpio energy, especially with this new moon. If you look at what Scorpio is fixed water. What is fixed water? Well, it means that it's contained water. It's not just free flowing all over the place. It's contained, therefore it's deeper. So if you look at a deep lake or a deep river, it has some kind of containment. It's got the banks of the river, it's got the banks of the lake or the dam, and it goes very deep. And so Scorpio is that holding place, for holding space for emotion, which is water. And so there's a potential to go deeper and to discover real jewels that exist in the depths of our beings, actually, with Scorpio. Along with the sun and the moon, we have Venus, as I said, Venus, the planet of love, the planet of relationships, actually also the planet of money. And so all of those things, or any of those things, can be highlighted at this time. Taurus and Scorpio axis, which is where the nodes are right now, for a while, but it's being highlighted by the eclipse season, is the money axis. It's the partnership axis. So what we're seeing is a lot of change in our money systems. We're seeing that all over the world. We're seeing a lot of transformation. We're seeing a lot of challenge in those areas as well, with inflation going through the roof and a lot of interruption to our food supplies, which is Taurus as well. And so there's going to be more of that. And it's almost like there's a pot that's cooking here, and that pressure seems to be building in some way towards that. So going back to the river analogy, I kind of see it as this is a time where we are being asked to go with the river. This is a river that's already flowing. We can't stop it, and to stand in the middle of the river and try to stop it is crazy. So what do you do if the river's flowing and flooding? You allow the river to carry you. You don't try and clutch onto a rock or clutch onto the sides, because you could get hurt. So it's really about letting go, releasing our attachment to what needs to go. That's the clearing. That's the process of Pluto, which clears the way. It clears old patterns, stuff from our lives that we don't need, that we're ready to let go of. This is the clearing process. And in the next few days, as we head towards that new moon, which is why I'm doing this a little bit before new moon, this is the time to clear. I mean, we're actually moving, so we're clearing a lot. But clearing what you don't need. Is that a belief system? Is that a pattern? Is that something that you want to release? Always on a waning moon, which is what we're on now, it's the clearing. And then there's a still point. There's a moment of quiet, of darkness, which is at new moon. And then the moon starts to wax again, which is then planting the new seeds for the new season of growth. So what do you need to let go of in the next few days before new moon? And you can start to consider what seeds would you like to plant, and then plant them after new moon, like you would plant a seed planted on the waxing moon, so that plant can actually grow. So we're unblocking the flow. We're actually letting the river flow. We are not holding on too tightly to anything from the past that might be holding us back in terms of our soul's evolution. Remembering that the nodes are connected with our soul's evolution. It's not just about the human, about this particular journey. It goes back. The nodes are the karmic axis. It's the past life axis that comes under the spotlight of the nodes. So when I do a birth chart, we look at the nodes to see what are the conditioned patterns that we've brought in. What are the talents that we've brought in? What are the skills? What are the abilities that we have that we might have built in, that we might have brought into this life? What karmic baggage are we carrying? And so the nodes always show you that, and what you're moving towards is shown by the other node, the north node. So this is it feels like a very karmic cycle, eclipse cycle, which, as I said, starts with the new moon on the 25th of October, and then moves for the next 2 weeks to the lunar eclipse, which is the full moon on the 8th of November. So it's a 2-week, it's sort of like a bridge between the two of them, or you can sort of see it as a birth canal with something being born. Just in terms of how it might feel for us, we might feel a little bit heavy. There's a lot of water. It sort of almost feels waterlogged, or that river's flowing in full flood. There's so much change going on. Things don't stay the same for more than a second. There's a lot going on, a lot pushing through that river. There can be an intensity. There can be power struggles with other people, with partners. There can be obsessive compulsive kind of behavior of I'm not letting go of this, I will have my own way. Deep intensity, also deep passion. Okay, so all of those things can come up on this axis. It's also, on the other side of that, it's a catalyst, as I said, for change. It can be very profound. It's very transformational. It's very healing. It's very purging, if you allow it to be. If you're able to actually stand in the midst of it and say, okay, this river's flowing. I'm not the river. I'm the one that's watching the river. I'm the one that's watching this flow, the rapids coming. And I'm just going to stay centered and allow myself to be carried where I need to be carried. It's not about force. It's about the power. It's about stepping into our power. It's not forcing our way, because that's the other possibility of Scorpio. It can be quite forceful. Scorpio has 2 rulers. It's got Pluto, the planet of transformation, and Mars, which can be associated with force. So you don't want to be forcing anything. It's like forcing that flower to be opened. It's just allowing our own power to arise within us and to let go of anything that doesn't serve us. So that's what this is about, stepping into our power as well. And to help us to do that, we have a beautiful, what I call an air trine. It's where we have 3 planets in air signs that are in a triangle. And what that says to me is, remember to come up for air. Remember to breathe. If you're in the river, you need to breathe. You might go under the water a little bit, and then you need to come up and take a few deep breaths and allow yourself to be carried. Don't force. So just remember to breathe. And that's a really key point for the next 2 weeks, not just for this new moon. Breathe. Stop. Stop whatever you're doing. Breathe. Just allow the river to flow, knowing that you are not the river. You're the watcher. You're the observer. The other thing about Scorpio is that Scorpio has 3 different levels. It has the bottom level, which is the scorpion, which most people know, and say, oh, be careful because you might get bitten by the scorpion and die. Yeah, that's part of it. It's that vengeful, warlike part of Scorpio. I'll get you because you hurt me. We're hopefully moving away from that. You're moving towards the all-seeing eagle, which is able to see everything, attached to nothing. And then the third and the highest level is often seen as the dove, which is not involved at all with the drama, is able to see everything in perfect order, even though it might not look perfect. And at this time in our life, it doesn't look perfect. The world does look chaotic. There is hectic stuff going on. There is stuff coming to the surface which is shocking many people. There are a lot of protests still continuing. I mean, in terms of the feminine, if you look at Iran, the women are protesting. They're saying, no, enough. It's about women. It's about freedom. It's about we actually have a voice. And, that's quite something for a country like Iran. So it's the rising of the feminine, not just female, not just women. It's the rising of feminine energy that's actually going to, I believe, transform the world, because there's been a big imbalance of top-down masculine energy, and this is the rising of the feminine. And the feminine is about allowing. The feminine, yes, it's very powerful in its own right, but it's not forceful. That's the feminine energy. So it's about embracing that feminine energy and freeing that repressed female energy that needs a release. So whatever you need to do on new moon, do a ceremony, do an internal ceremony where you allow yourself to feel what you feel. Just allow it. And if emotions are coming up, allow them to be there. Be the container for whatever needs to come up. It's very exciting. It's very invigorating, actually, as well. Be in the center of the storm. Don't get carried away by the craziness, by the storm. There's also a square between Mars and Neptune, and Mars and Neptune are very different energy as well. Mars wants to move forward, and Neptune is sort of making everything a bit foggy still. So the forward direction might not be clear. You feel yourself being carried by the river, but you're not quite sure where the river's going to land up. So this is about trust. It's about trusting that I'm taking this step, and that's okay. It's enough to know that I'm just taking this step. I'm packing this box, or I'm moving forward in that way, or I'm sending that email. I don't know where it's going to end up. Everybody always wants to know, are you sure that what you're doing is the right thing? Is this step the right step? Well, a good way to know is, well, I'm taking this step. So yes, it's the right step. And I trust that. That's that kind of internal feminine knowing. I'm taking this step. So yes, it's the right step. I trust it. That it's going to get to a place that's going to satisfy my ego's needs, maybe not. But that it's going to take me to the next step of my soul's evolution, definitely. And that helps us to not be fearful of change. Scorpio is the sign that says embrace change. Don't resist it. Everything is changing all the time. Doesn't matter how much we hang on to what was. It's going to change. It's going to shift. So it's for us to be open to that shift. Say, yeah, it's changing. I'm in the river. The river's flowing. Can I just be open to it? Can I go with it? Can I say yes to change? Even though it might be scary. Even though it might be overwhelming at times. Can I say yes to it? Can I take a deep breath and go, yes, I can do this. I'm surrounded by support. I'm guided. I have a light in front of me that's pulling me forward, even though I can't see very clearly what that might be. And I pulled a card for us just because it felt like I really needed to. And it was quite interesting because two cards sort of fell out of the pack. So Thekla, which we've actually had before when I've done these updates. And it's interesting because she is the prophetess of true power. I'm not going to read the whole thing to you, but basically the meaning of it is, I call my power back from all times and all places. I am my own. I call my power back from all times and all places. I am my own. So if we get carried away with the currents that are taking us left, right, and center and backwards and getting caught up in all the drama, we call it back into now. The power of now. The power is now. Okay, so that's the one card, which is really apt. And then another card popped up, which was Lakshmi, which is the goddess of abundance. And I wasn't quite sure if I should look at both cards. And so I shuffled again, and it was quite crazy because they both fell out together again. So I had to tell you about Lakshmi. And Lakshmi, interestingly, is the goddess of abundance. I choose to feel abundant. Wealth is an inside job. Very interesting. With this Taurus Scorpio axis and all that's going on with the issues around abundance, money-wise at least, about many people not feeling abundance or abundant, it just reminds us that the abundance that we look for is something that we hold inside, and it's a choice to feel abundant. So I would also say that at this new moon and going right up to the full moon, which I'll do another update on the 8th of November, it's to really look at the abundance that you already have, the food that you already have, the money that you might have already, the clothes that you have, the bed that you sleep in, the leaves on the tree, the abundance of leaves on a tree, the abundance of grass in your garden, things that you actually do already have, your 5 senses, your eyes, your hands, your nose to smell with, your feet to carry you. That's all abundance. So if you're feeling lack in any way, connect with that sense of abundance within you, because that feeds into the field actually, and then creates abundance in the field and is directed back at you anyway. So it's for us to move through this with presence, with love, with acceptance of what's going on for ourselves and everyone else. Just to know that a lot of people are going through stress at the moment. And give them some acceptance, Everyone's being stretched because everyone's going through this. The planet's going through this. It's a spiritual upgrade. It's an evolution in human consciousness. And the planet's going through it too. That's big. This is really big. And this is a month that we've been kind of waiting for, because it's felt like there's energy building to this month. There's a lot going on in the world. So it's just to keep our center and to keep returning to the tools that really work. Remember the breath. The breath's going to be key this month. It'll save you from drowning in all the heaviness out there. I hope that's helped in inner space this month. In November, we're dealing with holding space. So if you'd like to join us, you're welcome to join us just for the month. We have 2 Zoom calls where we actually will practice holding the space, which is Scorpio energy, which is holding the space for whatever needs to arise with grace and maturity. And we're all equipped to do that. So you're welcome to join us. The link's down below. If you resonate with what I said in the video and the message, please subscribe and hit the little notification button so you get notified every 2 weeks when I put a video up. And if you'd like a reading, you can also contact me on the details below, and we can set that up to see where the eclipse season is playing out for you. Thank you so much for listening, and have a beautiful eclipse season. Lots of love.